Hey guys, welcome to Crazy Days. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about this book. We had everything but money. This is talking about the Depression era. And today I want to talk about the dirty 30s. It was a time when there was I remember in school them calling a dust bowl. But they never really explained it that much in younger grades. And by the time I got older, I didn't pay it that much attention. But now it's starting to make sense. So when people are talking about, like we might say, it's really hot and humid here, and we're not growing things because there's too much humidity and it's the blight's hitting things, that's our area. Not everybody is experiencing that. We have friends that have cooler than normal weather. We have friends that have wetter than normal area. One area flooded out. They couldn't plant anything. So it's all about location, wherever you're at. But the Dust Bowl in the 30s, I want to read you a little bit. I can't read this book word for word, but I'm going to try and talk to you about what they were experiencing. This is letters and different interviews with several people that lived through this era. And in this one, it's talking about, like I'm sitting here looking at the sky now, and I'm seeing clouds, and I'm praying that rain's coming. This one is talking about when they were kids, seeing this huge storm coming, and they could hear it. They could see the cloud and they could hear it coming. It was unusual. It didn't sound like a normal storm cloud. I can hear the wind blowing, and I can look around and see a dark cloud approaching, but this was different. And they talk about seeing it coming, and when they did, the dust would be so thick that where they normally could see their neighbor's house, in a few minutes they could not even see it. And they could barely see in front of them once it got to where they were at. And so these were some of the things that they experienced, was a dust storm. And most of us are so, I don't know, germophobic, that we don't like dirt on anything. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the dust storm. This is a letter, and it's talking about what they had to endure during this dust storm. It says, some of you may think that you've had a dust storm before, but let me tell you what it's about. They had to shake their bedding out. They had to shake out their carpeting. Every aspect of every item in their house had to be cleaned. When this dust storm came in, according to this letter, it would seep through every little crack and crevice. If your window had just the least little crack at the bottom, the wind would blow that dust into your house. If you had, back then they did not have the insulation and the sheetrock and all this stuff, and it would be boards, and you might have tiny cracks in your boards. It would blow that dust through there. It talks about them having to keep their dishes covered and their food covered as they were cooking to keep dust from even getting in the food that they were cooking. They had to keep a lid on a pot, and they had to stir it with the lid over it sort of to keep as much dust out as possible, and they still got dust in their food. They talk about plates and things on the table and having to put them down and put their food in it and cover them, and then gradually pick it up and eat. I mean, how would you like to sit and eat with that much dust coming through? It would be crazy. And then what about cleaning every surface in your house? I'm talking every surface. Now we get dust. Here where we're at, dust is crazy. Even though the doors and windows stay shut, you can open the door and shut it, and I can just see a layer of film of dust on everything here. That's just the Deep South. But this was more than just a layer of dust. It was sand and grit flying through the air, so thick you could not see your hand in front of your face. This is what was happening. You see this ground here where the pigs have rooted it? Nothing's growing there. Well, this wind would take the topsoil and the grass and the stuff off, and it would just go away. This one lady, 60-year-old lady, is writing about when she was a little girl, 4th, 5th grade. They moved to a house where they had apple trees. First time they'd ever owned an apple tree. This was in the 30s. And she said right outside her window, her and her sister could sit and watch the apple tree. And they saw the blooms come on, and they saw the blooms turn into a little apple, and they were seeing it develop. And their mom had promised them an apple pie. She said one day they saw this cloud coming, and they could hear it. And when it came up, it was grasshoppers. It wasn't a storm cloud, but grasshoppers. A huge, huge cloud of grasshoppers. And it ate all their wheat in their fields. And it came and started eating their apple trees. And her and her sister went out and tried to knock the grasshoppers off. And they were thumping them off and trying to get them off the apples and try to save the apples. And their mom came out and said, "You can't fight grasshoppers. You have to stop." And they tried. But said they cried when they went out that night and there was nothing but the little cores left hanging on the trees. It eaten all the leaves, all the apple, and there was nothing but the little core of seeds left hanging on the tree. All their wheat was gone, everything. That will make you cry because you can't fight it. Weather is something we can't fight here. So the dust storms, it may not happen everywhere, but there might be a part of the United States again that it does happen. Flooding doesn't happen everywhere, but there's spots that it does happen. In unusual places. Missouri was really bad this year, really bad. I think up north, maybe Nebraska, there was places that do not have flooding like this all the time. They have it once in a few years, every few 10, 12, 15 years maybe, but not as severe as they had this year. We had flooding, but ours, luckily we're on hills. It was the low-lying areas. We could not even get out. First time ever we've never been able to leave the road we live on. This can cause all kinds of problems, guys. So this book, We Had Everything But Money, is really a great book. I'm enjoying it, and I thought you would too, talking a little bit about the dust storms, about them having to clean the dust out of everything so they could feel it in their teeth and feel it on their bodies. They could take a bath and still feel gritty and grimy. Most of us can't stand that. Once we come in for the day, we want a bath, we want to be cool. We're used to the creature comforts, right? So we had everything but money. This is a good book, guys, and I'm enjoying it, and I hope you are too. A little bit about the dirty 30s and the dust storms. Thank you, guys, from Crazy Days.